And yes, we are live now. So over to you, Mohit. The audience is all yours.
Thanks, thanks, Satvik. Thanks for the introduction. So, hey everyone, good afternoon. Nice to see you all. So, before wasting up any time, just let me know once my screen is visible so that I can take you through the presentation and primarily the talking points for today. Okay, so primarily what we are trying to cover up over here, as Satvik has already said, like what are the three W's and like why, what, and who the data scientist is actually working, what he is working on in a industry setup. We are going to look at an optimization problem, how to solve a campaign optimization problem strictly from the lens, like what actually the problem is, what kind of uh, what kind of a model building exercises we need to do before actually delving into the problem. And then primarily I would be taking up some of the questions, some of the review comments, and you can ask me anything. So brief about me, as Satvik said, myself Mohit Prasad. I'm currently serving as a principal data scientist with Optum Global. I have in total of 17 years of experience. I have till date I have developed more than 100 plus models which are there in the production. Um, I have generated more than $200 million of revenue. Uh, uh, and 4,000 hours of effort in the cost savings and 100 million more in the cost savings and 4,000 hours of effort. So that is in the totality of my experience. In free time, I do read a lot, try to learn new skills, mostly in the area of tech and data sciences space. Okay, so let's try to gauge the why basically the analytics is such a or the data sciences is such a buzzword during starting from the year about 2013, where actually much of the businesses and the industries they thought of adopting the data science as their key team to solve their business challenges. So as for any profit organization, industry, or a business, the major objective is always to be a constant revenue growth and a company or to lower their overall cost of doing the business. Analytics help this goal by analyzing the volumes of the data, predicting the key drivers for the business, which is having that impact. So, in order to understand it, it's just a simple chart which I'm trying to draw over here. Is that uh, the traditionally what does the what did the company or what do we understand is that there were few connotations about a given business is that the revenue, as you increase the revenue, your cost of doing the businesses would also increase. So there would be a linear relationship between the two. As the company grows, you have to add up more staff, you have to add up more technology staff in order to scale your businesses, which primarily drives up the cost. Um, and in order to basically bring down the cost, what you would need is primarily the volumes, or you have to increase your businesses, your services to a larger group. Till then, there's no way to bring down the cost. So what has actually changed is that post adoption of analytics is that um, actually targeting or doing a precision targeting onto the prospects um, in a better way when we target them out. So that actually brings the windfall revenue. That actually lowers your cost of customer acquisitions. The volume is important, but the repetitive operational cost of doing the things can be scaled lower with the help of data sciences by using the bots or by using the linear programming in your operations work in order to justify the cost for the business. So that is what we see. The circle over there is that is where we are trying to say is that once the data science or the analytics has been adopted by the company, we do see an increase in the margins of the business. So that is what that is where the majority of the focus is there. Yes, apart from this, there are actually the use cases, other use cases for the data sciences over here. But strictly from the industry as a generic standpoint, this is what the definition I do carry with myself. So, so when we talk about an organization, so traditionally what we see is that the traditional business units within an organizations like your sales and marketing, your finance, your operations, um, these are the key teams or the key business units where we are trying to set up analytics or that your data science models over here. So what kind of a models what we are talking about within the sales and marketing? The sales and marketing, basically we are helping them with the models to bring to lower the cost of customer acquisition by doing a segmented targeting, by doing an opportunity refinement, by doing a channel propensity models. There can be plenty more over here. Within the marketing, we also do the retention strategy. We build up the churn prediction models and plan fitment models. Within the finance as a business unit, this is where we are giving the customer credit risk profiling, doing the credit assignment for a given service or a given product. Within the finance, we are talking about, we are also giving your default predictions. We are trying to give them a leverage budget model and discounted cash flow model. So these are the well-known models within those business units. Within operations, we are primarily giving how to do the fulfillment of a service or a product, how to bring out that particular cost, how better in terms of cost, least cost and time, we can service out that particular product, how to do a service assignment, like in case if you have ordered an online product, then primarily who should be servicing in that particular region from uh, which co-location unit or the entity should be making that particular service, should be handling that particular service or the delivery orders. Similarly, if we try to understand within the sales and marketing area, so that is where you can take any example, right from your uh, right from a service industry like a telco. That is where we are trying to do a loss of we are trying to do a lot of targeting of the individuals who would be needing your telecom, your ISP services. So there would be several players in the market. The company would have a complex ecosystem of about plans and product within that particular area. So how do we lower that particular cost? How do we reach out to the customers? How do we reach out to the prospects? How do we upsell the plan? How do we cross sell a particular plan? So all those models or all those analytics would be handled within that particular opco. Yes, there are few of the uh, projects or your data science projects which actually would cut through your several business units. It need not be siloed upon it. But yes, just for the understanding perspective, we can think that these are the few of the model and use cases which we try to implement in the industry. Now, coming up with this, that who are the actually how do we solve this? So, as per my understanding, it's a 50% mix of your how much you understand the business and the functional process. Along with that, you should have data engineering skills. You should have this bit of statistical knowledge. You should be a model developer. You should know how to deploy that model, and you should know how to do a QA of the model. So what do we mean by all of these skills? That you should know how to handle the data, structured and unstructured data, data wrangling skills. In statistics, you should know about the correlation, you should know about the regression, Z-score, population density. As a model developer, you should know at least one language to build up your model or to write up the logic, which could be your Python, R, or any programming language. In terms of model deployment, you should have a fair idea that how this model will be moved into the production, whether it would be a standalone model or whether it would be a real-time model. Uh, so there are few skills in that particular area, such as you should know how to do an automation using a Kubernetes or either shell scripts, or have an understanding about ML flow in case if you are deploying the model on Azure. Similarly, there are other orchestration tools to deploy it out. In terms of quality assurance, this is where uh, you should know how to test the model, how to do a drift analysis in case if there is a temporal change in the data, you should know what has actually changed, whether the model requires a retraining or not, what was the model population which was used, and how this population has actually changed in terms of their demographic representation. What is the temporal hold of the data, whether it stands the test of time or not, that, which means that how long before a retraining of the model you need to wait. So all the skills is primarily we try to see it into packed into a single person whom we call it as a data scientist. But yes, instead calling it as a data scientist, you can think that this is the team and they understand about the need of the business, and they know how to solve a problem. So we'll quickly go into that. One of the problem statements which I have solved, I haven't given up the means I haven't put up the data over here, but I will primarily go that how we have solved that particular problem, what is needed to solve similar kind of a problem, and then I can take up some questions on this part. Okay. Now for the business problem over here, one of the problem this is was a problem statement is that a health insurance company is actually their marketing spend has increased, and their response rate, the number of people who are responding to the campaigns, that is actually decreasing linearly from 6% from 2019 till 4% at the end of 2022. Now, during this time, the product team has also designed 6 new products in 2021, but so they are asking is that can we build up a marketing model which suggests on the targeting strategy and optimize the campaign without impacting the acquisition rate by 0.5%, and it should reduce the expense by 40%. So what they are saying is that if you try to understand the response rate over here is that assume that you are trying to reach out 100 people, correct? 100 new customers. So you have gone into the market and you're trying to reach out 100 people. Out of that, 6 has said, okay, this seems to be interesting, and those 94 people have said no. They haven't shown any intent to purchase the good or the service. Now, obviously, these are your standard response rates within the industry. Is like it is close to for a service-based industry, a large industry. Basically, your response rate would be somewhere close to from 2% to all the way till 10%, depending upon the product or the service. And generally, what we see is that the more the higher the number of years the company has spent into the market, the more optimized their marketing strategy becomes. So what they are asking us is that if we reduce the if we cut down upon to the target list by 40%, they should not be losing more than 0.5% of customers what they are actually getting. So how does a data scientist would think about this particular problem? So this is the idea over here. So bringing back the business and the functional understanding of of the process within the marketing of an health insurance. So so these are the questions which we should ask to ourselves, like who purchases an health insurance? What are the existing target segment? If the response rates are decreasing, do the actual number of people who are signing up for their services, and that is also decreasing. what were the new product lines which were introduced, how many new product lines was created in 2019-20 and in the past, whether these campaigns are online, offline, hybrid, how do they are reaching out to the customer, whether there was any change in the tactics, how they were reaching it up. And the few of the thing is that, are there people still they are signing up for the product without actually without being targeted for the campaign, and what percentage is that? And what are the macro decision factors for a customer who needs that particular product? So in order to understand that, when we ask these questions to ourselves, so what we are asking is that so we know that what kind of a data would be needed, correct? What kind of a data would be needed, how to approach for those data. So until unless we ask those questions to ourselves, we won't be able to understand the business and the functional, we won't have the functional understanding about the campaign process. So normally how the campaign is designed is that you would have a product master, you would have the campaign data, and you will have the prospect demographic data, which would contain your primarily the features such as your age, income, their gender, their primarily their net worth. All this kind of data is comes from usually from the external agencies, or since the business uh, would have existed prior in the time, so they would have their own customer data, more enriched data. Those who would have churned out, or those who would not have been into the system for last about say 1 or 2 years, they still would have the data about those customers. So, so this is what we were asking is that though the response rate is decreasing over here by 6 to 4%, what has been the total number? Is that my target? Is that the company has started targeting more number of people? So we say that yes, we when we analyze this particular data set, we say yes, this has actually increased. Now, how much it has increased? Your response rate has gone down till 1%, but actually your you are targeting about 4 times more the population, correct? So it is bound to happen that yes, for a higher number you are getting a lower response rate, but that is actually means more number of customers. And since the number of product has also increased from 2019 onwards till to a stable level of 8, starting from 4 to 5 products, it has gone to all the way till 8. And it was in 2020, the total number of products is 10. Now, in health insurance company, when it is selling a given healthcare product or healthcare insurance, so as an individual, can buy would need only one healthcare product, correct? He won't go and buy all the different product and different services. So that is where though the company is reaching out for the multiple products to a single customer, the customer would be able to purchase out only one. So that is where the unit economics is actually disturbing out. So yes, this problem can be solved. How it needs to be solved, that is about this particular story lining upon here is that so what we see from over here is that how many number of people, how many number of times they have been contacted, the same person, how many number of times they have been contacted. So we can see that the higher the population spread within this particular area, if you see it out, um, so the higher the number of population, they were actually contacted less than one. They were contacted about one time. But this has increased significantly in 2020, 2021. So yes, we know that higher number of populations have been, we have been reaching out about 40% of the population about 5 times. So these people would be, so these would be the same people who can actually buy one of the product, correct? So that is where this problem can be solved. So let's talk about the model motivation. How what is basically we need to do over here in order to build up a baseline model over here? What we need to do it over here? So we'll start with the demographics. So we have to answer A. Which type of prospect buys which type of the product? What are the key features which are responsible for a basic health insurance demand? So whether it is people who are having some kind of a pre-existing disease, are they purchasing it? Uh, is the people who are actually working in some organization who are having a stable, healthy income, they are actually purchasing a health insurance. Um, People who are in business, are they purchasing it more or their coverage is more? Um, so that is in terms of demographics, we need to answer this particular thing out. In terms of product, we have to say that out of given product, which is the best product for that particular prospect. Within the contact strategy, we have to tell that what should be the optimal number of touch points should be there, and in the time to convert is basically how much gap we should able to give between the touch points. So this is where the difference arises. So most of the people who are coming just with an academic knowledge, they would basically would be thinking that this problem is it's a propensity problem, correct? It's just a classification score. If we could have generated uh, for a given prospect based upon their demography data, we could have answered that which one to likely to are likely to get converted and which are the people who are less likely to get converted. Similarly, if we cut down the 40% of the cut down the 40% of the list whom we are actually contacting up, we can primarily do a fair job in developing the model. But this is where we know that it's not a single model which would work in act, in act, in reality. It has to be a combination of models. And what those models would look like is that A, we have to prepare a propensity model to answer that which of the to answer which are the key features within my prospect, whether it is based upon income, whether it is based upon where the person is living, there his location demographics, whether what kind of a makeup we can see in terms of who are likely to buy any of the given product. We take this as an input, as a proba score. We feed it into the next model. In the next model, we are trying to generate, we are building up a multi-classification model where we are saying that for each of the products, say from P1 till PX, what is the probability that each individual will buy this? So this is where we generate mostly the multi-classification models. Once this is done, then then at the campaign touchpoint optimization, um, we do the linear programming um, in order with the constraint that this is the budget, this is the number of times we need to how many number of times we need to contact a given person in order to meet the budget and time constraint. And then we get the primarily that this is the final model what it looks like. So this is the ensemble model which primarily we do suggest up, and this is where it requires to answer those questions in the specific way so that the business actually find a value outcome out of this. So with this, I will just stop for a minute and take up some of the questions and do a quick time check. Uh, so Satvik,
Yeah.
yeah. So do we have questions, or is there anyone who would like me to repeat on some of the areas which I have spoken about in brief?
Yeah. So there are about two questions posted in the Q&A section.
Mhm.
So would you like me to take them up or
Yes,
yeah?
yes.
Okay.
If you can just pull up the questions because I want it to be interactive
Yeah, yeah,
rather
sure.
than going down to the code level. We can basically tell exactly what is needed.
Okay, so the first question is from Venkata Raghu. He
Mhm.
says, can you please illustrate later how you did cost saving?
Okay, so how we are doing, so I haven't added up into the slide because of the reasons that I cannot delve upon this, but it is easier to understand. So assume, so this is where we are saying this is my population which we are targeting. Now the number of people whom we are reaching up, you are increasing that, they are increasing that volume. So earlier they were about just about 50,000 people. Now they are reaching up to close to 20,000, 200,000 people. Correct. Now within that, of that 200,000 people, there is a response rate of only 5% people. Correct, which is increasing. Which is this is the line which is decreasing over there. So we know that the people who had the propensity to buy this out, uh, their profile must have remained the same, correct? The people who had the need for a health insurance, that macro factor wouldn't have changed a lot, correct? So until unless that is happening, there is not an external trigger over here. So that actually implies that we can cut down upon the list. Or it could be the problem that we are reaching out to far too many people for too many products and services. So when we decrease that particular, so when we try to understand, like out of this, only these percentage of the population is actually purchasing out. And if we look at their similar demographics of the people, how many similar, how many, what population of the prospect have the similar, um, uh, similar demographic features over there. So that is where it is likely to have it. So I have some data set which I was trying to build it up. So how does it looks like? If I can give a small uh, uh, small understanding about the data is that you would have something called a campaign data, which basically tells you that for a given campaign for a given product, how many times the prospect was basically called upon, um, what was the prospect type at that particular time when we reached out to the customer, when this customer was actually was uh, did actually became our customer, and what is his current customer ID is, and this is a flag whether this is customer or not. So this you would have for say multiple prospect who are there within the prospect data. Now within the prospect data, this would be the demographic data of the customer. It would contain their name, city, market, um, first name, last name. It would also be having gender, income, occupation. Uh, what if they were our previous customer? What was their previous product name? Whether what is their total net worth? What are their existing medical conditions, if there are any? So apart from that, there could be even several other data points over here which would have been captured, but this is what I had just prepared it as a synthetic data over here. So this is what we try to basically get from the customers. Like, does the income is having a relationship with a person buying up the product or not? Is there the people who are coming from a given job occupation, whether they are more likely to purchase it out or not? People from which city and state they are actually buying it out, and from which state and city, which are the market areas where we have the less than the median number of sales. So based upon these features, primarily this is where we are trying to say that we try to segment out the customer base. We try to build upon the classification model that which of these features and what are their weights, primarily feature importances, based upon which we can decide whether the person is likely to buy or not likely to buy onto the service. Now, once you have built this out, and once you have basically have that these are the people with these particular features, they usually buy. The next question which you have to answer is that based upon their based upon their propensity to become a customer, what is the likelihood, what is the probability that which product it will buy out of my entire product set suite. So suppose if the products are like P1 till P2, P3, P4, so out of that, which product it would buy, you can run a multi-classification model with the same as your input features, but along with the product which they have bought. So once you would be training that particular data, you will getting the multiple probabilities for each of the product. So suppose if I know the customer is likely to take product 2 than product 3 and 4 or 1, then I have to basically reach out to the this particular prospect more for your within this particular campaign data. So this is what I will prepare it out, and I will suggest that what should be my touch point. Number of touch points should be 3 or 4. Similarly, for the where the propensity for the other product is actually less, I will try to reach him or her out in the less manner. So how that is done is basically, so this is what I was talking about. This is the campaign touchpoint or optimization. You generally do it with the linear programming methods, where you design the system constraint and tell the system that this is what your objective function is that, and your constraint is that you should not increase more than the 40% of the combined budget. So does that answer your question?
Well, I'm sure it does, because he also has a follow-up question,
Mhm.
and he asks how and who has control on the population sample. Do we decide, or is it given to us by business? If data is less, can we request for more data? And when do we decide that the data is less?
Okay, good question. So yes, the the prospect list is available with the entire marketing. So they are the people who are asking us to reduce it out. So the marketing and the marketing operations team or the campaign owner or the product owner would basically tell you that who is this product intended for, because they would have done a deep dive into the market scenario. They would have come for a product need, correct? There would be a product definition to it or a product charter to the given product, that this product is well suited for the working professionals who has an income range of this. So that would be the thought behind it within the market research. But when we see the actual data which is coming in terms of what prospect we have purchased out, what prospect list which they have purchased out, they have got it. So within that particular prospect list is that is where you say that this list is less or more, or what who should be contacted when and where. But primarily the people who would be driving that particular business justification would be the person who has given this particular business problem. So you have to basically uh, go to him or her with that particular solution in the mind. So this is where you try to define the objective for yourself, that this was the business problem, this is what we will do. And since you wanted to do a cut onto the budget, that can only be brought, how it can be brought is that you contact less number of people, or you contact optimally for say one of the product and less for the other product where he doesn't have the propensity, correct? So if we bring, so what would happen is that with your this thing, the number of people who have been contacted multiple times for a say two number for product P1 and P2, so you can cut down it to say contact only 3 times for product P3 and one times for product P1 and P2, correct, if there are multiple products over there. So in that way, you would be reducing some of the touch points from 5. The total number of touch points will go down till 3 or 2. In that particular case, you have still reached out to the customer. You can still validate it with the test population, with the control group and the test group, whether how good it is working or not. So once you have objectively defined it out, You can once you create those test group and control group, you basically say that the response which the customers are giving in the control group is indeed similar to my test group, so hence my model is working out.
Yeah, thank you for answering the question in detail, Mohit. So the next question we have is from Mahesh Vadgaonkar,
Mhm.
and he asks, what are the formalities we have to do before starting any business problem using data science?
Okay, another good one. So this is where I will come to that, come to primarily within the organization and with an intent, correct? So the intent is clear. So when you have when you are actually building up your first, say, you are trying to this is your suppose this is the first day when you are going joining a team of the data sciences, and you have come up with a say idea that why not we do this, correct? So the key feature, what the business will understand is that what is the outcome, what would be the outcome would look like out of your proposed idea. So suppose if you're giving an idea, it doesn't have any revenue or any monetary benefit, neither it is bringing down the cost, then it becomes the justification of that becomes little tough. Then you have to think about what is the other means, what is the other area which you are trying to improve, whether it impacts onto the customer experiences, whether it impacts, how does it impacts the business, correct? That idea should have a certain kind of an impact, correct? So once you understand more onto that particular impact, you can go to the further teams over here. Now within the sales and marketing, I've just written it as a one unit. There would be a customer experience team, there would be a customer success team, there would be a growth team, there would be a strategy team. Within the finance itself, there would be an assurance team, there would be an internal audit team, there would be a process and controls teams. Similarly, within operations, there would be a fulfillment team. So the organization is consist of all the required headers within the companies, within itself. So you have to reach out to that particular person who is responsible for making that particular key metric to be who is responsible for that particular key metric. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so I think we can move to the next question.
Mhm.
Next question is from Sweta. She asks, how do you quantify cost saving when you're optimizing an existing process?
Okay, so another good question. So this is the primarily the hardest part, but one of the easiest also. So what you have to do is you have to look into the measurement, what exactly you were measuring out of that particular model. So suppose in one of my models where I was given the task of finding out the readmission rates of the patients, what is the readmission probability that a patient will again get readmitted. So there was a logistic regression model which is already there in the system. It consumes some of the data information, not all, and it gives out a score, say a probability between say 30 to 50%. It basically based upon the patient's condition and the diagnosis, it and age and other factors, it generates it out. Now, when we developed the model, we took some of the additional features within the data. We engineered few of those features, and our model was basically what it was doing is that it was giving the readmission rate at a lesser accuracy, but it was a classification model. Both the models were classification models itself. So what it was trying to do is that our model had a lesser accuracy than your previous model, because for the simple fact is that your readmission rate is only about 7 to 8%. Correct. So for every non-readmission, even if you predict out it to be an admission, the maximum so minimum accuracy of this the maximum what you can reach out is still about a 92% accurate model. but those are not the matrix which you use, correct? You try to use the matrix is that total number of readmissions was how much was being able to get predicted by your earlier model, and what you have proposed, how much it is primarily able to capture that pain point. Now, when you compare these two scores and then you say that you are okay, you are able to say with a higher confidence that you would be able to catch more number of readmissions in your number of your true positives will be much higher, and that is what the intent of the model is that. So that is likelihood to give you a more amount of a cost savings than the initial model. So there can be some nuances. There can be nuances like um, um, there can be nuances like for each of your what is your true positive rate and what is your false negative rate. So in case if you are giving a higher number of false negative, but still you are actually able to give out a true positive rate better than your previous system. So that would increase a bit of cost for the operations. But yes, indeed, it would solve a bigger challenge. So Shweta, that answers your question.
Okay, so next question is again from Venkat Raghuram Polisetti, where he asks, can you please guide towards documentation on the subtopics of model deployment and QA?
I can do that. I can try to do it offline. I would rather be if you can connect to me offline, or primarily I do not know how. This is the first time I'm giving a session over here at DataHour, but yes, I can do it offline. There are primarily what you can do is out of top of the mind is that the matrix computation which you are doing within the model, you are only currently we are only limited to the data set what we have for the model development, correct? But actually the quality assurance comes with the out of time data, or primarily the new data sets which are coming into the system. So what you have to say is that the population statistics, how that is changing, correct? So suppose if your population makeup was earlier about say 17% was urban, 23% was rural, and 33 say rest of them was actually in um, say metro areas or higher metro areas, then whether this population shift has happened or not within the newer data set what we are seeing, so that would indicate a bigger challenge which is going to happen within the business, correct? Because those models which are there in the production would basically try to, if this makeup has actually changed, this population makeup has changed, that was enormously give out wrong predictions, or it will try to give a higher predictions to the sales which are going to happen, and that would lead into a higher cost of the operations or the marketing operations team in order to service it out. So those are the key challenge and the aspect where within the quality assurance, every data scientist should have it in the mind that what population changes would have a impact onto the model. If you generate the synthetic data, you try to follow through those scenarios, you think about how that can be what kind of a controls can be added into the system.
Yeah, I think that gives a fair idea. So we can move to the next question.
Mhm.
And it is from Rajiv Sharma, where he asks, can we have a demo in Python for any such model which shows all the stages for the synthetic data shown?
Oh, I can do it. Again, I can do it offline. It doesn't take much of your coding skills, to be frank. Just to help you out, the community, in order to basically doing a data transformation or data engineering onto the data wrangling part, or even onto the model development part. There is a community of PyCaret. You can use it. It's a within 4 lines of code you can reach out to that that part of model development. So it's one of the extensive libraries people have started using it, but you should be aware that what exactly goes behind the model, correct? You should understand whether the classification, whether that class, it also does the model comparison out of your gradient boost, random forest, naive Bayes, or a dummy classifier, how good the model is performing under which particular matrix you want to optimize it out, or where you want to do a performance tuning of your model. So all those aspects, it basically it's abstracted up and basically shows you the final output, and it also tells that what is bit of the EDA, the this itself does it. So yeah, in a way it is helpful. There are several products also available in the market, but that is where I'm saying the coding skills are actually just the 50% of all, but understanding that, having a deeper understanding uh, about the business, about the process which you're trying to solve, uh, that cannot be encoded. So that is where you have to do a custom EDA onto each and every business problem, and you have to come up to a solution asking those simple questions like why we are doing this, what would happen. The how part is basically just a 20% of everything, and that which is where we write the codes and where we do it. Hope that helps you. I can send it offline, or I can upload it onto the analytics with your site.
Yes, we've also shared the LinkedIn profile of the speaker in case anybody wants to connect and discuss things. So we have one question from Nitish Vishwakarma where he asks, what if a teenager phone is used for online purchase for an elderly in a household? Data will show that the teenager is buying something for the elder one. And is that going to decrease the authenticity of the data?
So such nuances are there in the data, but in the end, because these scenarios also primarily doesn't changes the data much. So why I am saying is that suppose there is an online, suppose I have built a model based upon my Google Analytics, correct? Now the parent, suppose that it was a parent's phone, correct? So the data would always be generated in terms of parent, but the likelihood of purchases what the child is making would be the product which is associated to a child, not to the parent. So there would the product propensity would have changed, but the buying propensity wouldn't have changed because the money is with the parent itself, correct? The child doesn't earn. So that is where the conformance of the model is actually, that is where we recommend to build model in the stages. If you try to do all of these three together, which most of the pe- people, they try to build everything together, so that doesn't works out, correct? So every decision is a step. So there are multiple decisions which is involved when you are trying to do it out. So first question where we are asking is that whether the prospect will become a customer or not. So there would be a check mark, correct? Since it was a parent's phone, parent was always had a money into their account, or he was from a high income group, so they are likely to buy this particular product. Now what kind of a product the person is buying, that could change, correct? So that is the behavior. For that you have a different model altogether. Now, based upon this, whether you would like to reach out multiple time for buying a child product to a um child product to an adult who is having a multiple, what do you call, multiple from from the multiple sales data, we would have said that this was an outlier event because a the customer within that particular age group doesn't buy a toy or a child item, so this could be one of those features. But yeah, interesting question, Manish.
Okay, so we have one question from Vikas Kumar, and it's a long one. So he says that in a situation when we are approaching my customer with product A,
Mhm.
customer is adding a condition that please get another problem sorted out first because that was from my own company but from another team. Now, how to handle this situation when I don't know that another team and the problem the customer is facing?
Okay, you mean to say client, correct? Not
Yeah,
customer. Okay.
yeah,
So I will take it like this, not a. So, okay, so there are two parties who have a different problem statements over here. Um, so if I have to go back to the problem statement, say the product campaign team has, so those who are giving us this particular number, correct? Instead of that, they have added further too many riders or too many constraints. Like still, I have to reach to the target group. Within each target group, I cannot leave more than 2% of the population. So if I am trying to cut a 40% margin, suppose if I am trying to cut 40% people from that particular list, and I can only cut 2% from each of the target group, then obviously I have to create at least 20 target groups, correct? From my segmentation process or from my clustering algorithm, first I have to see that there are at least 20 target groups or not. If those 20 target groups itself is not there, then how you are going to cut 2% from each? So the problem becomes undefined or means there is no solution to it. Now, in order to convince out a particular team onto this particular aspect, that that what is the lineage or what is the cyclic nature of problem A being solved for problem B, B not for A. So if you're landing up into these kind of problem statement, is that the best way to do is that you show them the objective, you show them the scenario, what would happen if A does it and B doesn't do it. If A do it and B doesn't do it, both A and B do it, correct? So those would be your three business scenario. Out of these three business scenario, you can always say that um, which of these has an optimal business outcome, and that would be a win-win for each of them. I think it can be handled, but yeah, it depends upon the rationale of each of the teams from where they are coming from. Hope that answers your question, Vikas.
yeah. So, before we take last one, two questions, I would
Mhm.
like to request the attendees to please fill in the poll about feedback as it helps us to conduct more such sessions in future. And meanwhile, we can take up the question. So it is Mahesh Vadgaonkar asking that in the process of solving this business problem, any
Mhm.
different practices used to achieve this problem objective other than normal data science practices like EDA, pre-processing, model building, etc. And how does that help?
There is. In fact, good, Mahesh, did you basically. So that is where I'm saying that from the business and the functional understanding of the process. See, as I was saying that the teams who are actually solving. Let's go back to the initial this particular area. So this is coming from sales and marketing, correct? Sales is responsible for selling the for doing the actual sales, while marketing is onto the uh, brand building and promotions and campaigns and doing those strategic taking those strategic input. Say for the company who is new into the market, correct, it can only rely upon to your sales strategy. They will have no data to justify whether there is a need for a product or not if the company is first time coming up with a product, correct? So they can only estimate it that who would be needing their services, what kind of a people would be needing their services. They would have done the market research and the survey, correct? They would have done some kind of a Kickstarter campaign, or they might have done pre-sales of their particular product or the service which they have came in for. So without the data science, how do you apply the data science? Is that you try to take the um, entire population into the consideration. Then you drill down through econometrics of the given region. That how many people are working, how many people are below the poverty line, which if your product cost 100 rupees, that 100 rupees of the services, what is the worth for the customer? Who would be willing to put that 100 rupees? Just a second. So, so yeah. So who would be willing to put that 100 rupees to buy that, purchase that particular product or a service? So all those answers are given latently by econometrics, which we call it as a population makeup. Now, once that population makeup has came, so you have to see for the distribution whether when the marketing strategy is actually has looked into the market and basically has come up with this, that okay, people who are who can afford to buy this 100 rupees price point service or a product, then the usability or the tenability of that particular thing, when you have to actually test it out, you do not do it for the entire population. You take chunks of that population, say 2 or 10 people from each of those categories which has been defined. Then for half the people you run the campaign or you try to sell the product, and for half the population you do whatever you was doing, correct, like earlier, which we call it as a one is the control group, one is the test group. Now, if the responses of the test group is similar to what you have basically modeled out, and it is very different than your control group, we say that there has been an impact, correct? So that hypothesis testing you are actually putting into a practice and then actually seeing it out. So that's the kind of a strategic uh, playbook you can create around any of the functions, but you should be knowing in depth about what is basically goes around to that particular function and what was the intent of that particular product or a service line. Make sense, Mahesh?
Okay, so one last, yeah. So there is one last question from Dwij, where he asks, how relevant is government census data in improving the outcomes of data analytics?
um, if Divit, you can tell what you're trying to do. Say if it is about the public available data on what area. So I can tell you there are some reliable amount of data which is available into the public domain, even in the healthcare space, even in the context of Indian healthcare space, or even in terms of econometric or the population of the individuals. But you won't get so what do we mean by that is that if you have a until unless suppose if you're trying to build out an analytics program, say for a you want to basically delve out onto the insights for a given product or a services into a particular area, and based upon the census you are trying to see that particular whether that product would be a right fit or a not a right fit, correct? Now, the government data, the agency which is giving you that the population makeup. So that is good for estimating only the ratios. It is not good for actually to do it for the targeting or basically reaching out to those customers, since government would itself wouldn't have given you any of the what you call the contact the contact column of each of its data points, correct? That how to reach, say, do it who lives in, say, Bangalore, in this particular area. The government wouldn't have given you the targeted list. It only gives you the population makeup. So the ratios of that population makeup, yes, that could be little troublesome, but if the it could be skewed towards either of the side. But there are statistical measures which you can employ on the top of the data in order to say that what is your pristine data versus uh, what is an outlier over there, and basically take the interquartile range of the data for each of the numbers and then basically build up your own sample population and progressively build upon it. there are multiple ways of basically building that particular data element. That is what I wanted to say.
Yeah, so that's our time. Uh, Thank you very much, Mohit, for beautifully answering all the questions in detail and with examples. On behalf of Analytics Vidya, I would like to thank you for your time and for delivering such a wonderful session. I'm
Thank
sure our audience found it insightful, and hopefully, we can conduct more such sessions with you in the future.
Sure, it was equally nice to be with you. Thanks for the questions and all. It really gives me think that at least people are interested about it. Uh, so, guys, hope you have enjoyed it. Yeah, for the comments and all, for those who would be needing the code base in order to do it, I can basically I can primarily build up some of the dummy codes and build some of the synthetic data and try to place it over there. Means send it over here in some form and attachment, and then primarily each of you can go and look into it.
Yeah, so basically, our team will forward it to all the attendees,
Mhm.
all the sources that they require via the
Mhm.
email.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.